What's up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com, or if you're watching on our YouTube channel, Tar Heel Illustrated. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me, as he always does, our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And Andrew, we're here for the 10th episode, in the double digits now, man, of our UNC football ISO series that we've been rolling out over the past couple months, kind of a part of our off-season content. If you haven't seen those videos, the ones that have come before this is what I'm alluding to. After this video is done, you'll see our channel link below, and you'll see a playlist on the front where you can find all of those. And real quick, which you'll see posted up here, after the vid's done, head on over to TarHeelIllustrated.com if you haven't already, and sign up for our premium boards, our premium access, just $8.33 a month. What you get with that, like I mentioned, is access to our premium message boards, which 99% of our recruiting stuff that goes on throughout the offseason and throughout the whole year is on there and never gets posted on the front. So if you want access to a little bit of scoops, a little bit of stuff that's going on behind the scenes, whether it be with recruiting or within football and basketball programs in general, head on over to our site and sign up for just $8.33 a month. It's a great time to do it during the off season as well, ahead of the start of fall camp here in just a few months. So take advantage of that. And if you're a diehard Carolina fan, I don't think you'll regret doing it, because there's a ton of perks that come along with it. But AJ, we're here to talk about William Barnes. I think probably the best story of the spring in a lot of ways. And AJ's going to kind of kick it with a little story and go back to his recruitment here in a sec, which I think will paint the whole picture of why his emergence during the spring is one of the better stories that we've not only seen this spring, but kind of in the throughout Mac's time at Carolina so far. Now, how things shake out in fall camp and throughout the season, how much playing time Williams Barnes ends up getting on a O-line that returns all his starters remains to be seen. But AJ, from what we've seen in the spring throughout, from him, from how Mac's talked about him, from how some of the other players have talked about him, he's taken the strides, and I've seen it with my own two eyes as well. I mean, I've seen a couple practices. We've talked about him on a couple podcasts as well that we've done after some of these open practices. But his leadership is really shown out to me, has really emerged as a guy that seems to be a voice in that room now. And he's an upperclassman now, a guy that's been around the program for a few years, so you kind of expect that from him. But AJ, I know you're going to allude to it, but kind of take us back to his recruiting, and I think that'll help kind of paint the picture of just how good his story could end up being if he's a guy that ends up playing significant minutes on this team come August.
Based on what we know now, where things stand with him after spring practice, and Mac told us a couple of times, he could be trusted to start. He'd be in that 8-man rotation that every coaching staff covets along the offensive line, which actually at Carolina, I think this year it's going to go deeper than 8. And William Barnes is a big part of that. He's a perfect example of why you never shovel dirt on kids. And really, especially ones that just because they're real highly related and they don't meet the timetable that other people have for them that are outside the program, doesn't mean you just shovel dirt on and say, well, he's worthless, he ought to transfer, we don't want him around anymore. Some people had that mentality when it came to William Barnes. People called him a bust because he was a big-time recruit.
Yeah.
He was a 4-star kid that Carolina got. He's out of Apopka, Florida, which is Joe Barry's hometown. Ed Montilus was a high school teammate. Carolina got him out of the clutches of the University of Florida. A lot of people thought all along that he was going to go to Florida. Mm-hmm. And what I remember, I covered Larry Fedora when he was a coach. He would end the June camp series, prospect camp series with the Freak Show. Max had one of those. Didn't have one last year, obviously. He called it Showtime. Larry was able to get some big-time kids in there for several years. The Freak Show. I always enjoyed it. It was at night. It was a great theme. And William Barnes was there one year. I can't remember off the top of my head which year it was. It may have been 17. It was summer of 17. Mm-hmm. And he was the priority of that class. And when they got him, he was a jewel of the class. But at that Freak Show, he was just a stud. We got tons of pictures, tons of videos. Like, we were all in on William Barnes. That's what our readers, our subscribers, all wanted to know about William Barnes. And after the session was over with, everybody left. They had people in the stands, other media. We stayed. Bruce and I stayed. I think Gerard was at that camp as well. And we weren't going to leave because in the end zone near the tunnel, if you look at the tunnel from the opposite end zone, just to the left of it, Coach Cap and William Barnes, and I believe his parents stood there talking, and they kept talking. And we're thinking, you know what? He's going to pop. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be here to see him pop, and we're going to cover it and all that kind of stuff. Well, he didn't. He came really close. But when he left, the staff thought they had him. They had him locked up. They were so excited because he was the jewel of the class. So when he arrived at Carolina a year later, I'm out there in Berkeley, California, and watching the Tar Heels in the opener at Cal. He played like 42 snaps against Cal. The next week he placed 46 at ECU, which was a terrible loss. That was the loss, by the way, where you knew, okay, well, the Larry Fedora era is going to come to an end. But here is this true freshman lineman who was vital to the program, to the foundation. You bring in a top 100 offensive lineman, plays 88 snaps the first 2 games, and then he disappeared.
Yeah.
He had a little bit of an injury, had some other issues. He told us back there late in spring practice there were some personal issues. There's no point in getting into any of that. It's not important. He also had weight issues, which Mac and Phil Longo have been open about discussing. So fast forward to this past spring, he was at kind of a fork in the road, really last January. You know, you either produce or you're going to lose your opportunity in your career because guys will – you're only going to have so many opportunities. I think he had to show the staff he could be that guy. He went from 342 pounds. He told us at the end of spring he was at 316. That's 26 pounds. He went on low carb. He really became disciplined with what he ate. He became disciplined with everything else. The care factor, the want factor, all of that escalated to the point where when spring practice ended, as you pointed out, Jacob, and you watched it, you were watching EOL, you were the one who told me William Barnes is really vocal. And I went and watched it. I'm like, yeah, he is really vocal. He's a different kid. He's a different football player. I don't know if he's a different kid. I can't say that. But he's a different football player. And I think he's got pro potential.
Yeah.
We have to see him play down. I mean, because he's still that supremely talented athlete that everybody fawned all over a few years ago. Now everything is starting to come into fruition. I think he'll play some this year because they're going to lose a lot of offensive linemen, and they're going to need to get the 22 group ready by giving them some reps this year. So we'll see. And if he plays well, it would not surprise me. Everybody's got a different timetable, and it's not up to me to decide an athlete's timetable. The athlete and the coaching staff will take care of that. So his was a little slower than what people wanted, but he's arriving to a place I think the staff is very happy with. And most importantly, I think he's very happy with.
Yeah.
That's a very long response to your question. But the background, I think, is important for people to understand why this is an important story and why, for me, a guy who's been around covering this since that recruitment, why I got a lot of pleasure out of writing a feature story about him that we ran at the end of April, 1st of May.
Yeah, and I'll put the link to that in the description below if you want to go check that article out that AJ read about him. But one last thing I want to ask you with him. Like I mentioned earlier, you got all the starters returning on this year's O-line. Best case scenario, what do you think his role is on this team, come November, December, maybe even earlier October? What do you think his role is?
Best case scenario means that there are no injuries that would necessitate him getting on the field. Yeah. I think he's in the rotation. They want to be fresher. I think one of the problems with this team, and Mac is not beating around the bush about this, they need to be fresher, especially on defense at the end of the first half and in the fourth quarter. But they need to be better in the fourth quarter on offense too. Run the ball better, sustain drives, keep the defense off the field a little bit more in the fourth quarter. So you need to be fresher up front. And I think that you'll see him play some. So, he's playing tackle and guard during spring. When those games at Cal that I noted, by the way, he was a guard. When they first brought him in, this guy's a straight guard. Well, he's playing tackle some now. So I could see him spelling Jordan Tucker a little bit for a series or two. Look, if he could save Jordan Tucker 12 snaps,
big.
And if he could save Marcus McKeithen 12 snaps, he gets 24. That's pretty good experience for a guy over the course of a season. You're talking 300-plus snaps for someone who's in his fourth year in the program and might end up starting in 22. But think about it, though. McKeithen and Tucker having that little breather, 12 fewer snaps, how much better they're going to be in the fourth quarter, how much sharper and fresher they're going to be. So it's a vital part of a football team that a lot of people don't understand or know much about because it's not really talked about because it's not a sexy topic. But it's really important in the Kenan Football Center. Definitely. And having an eighth guy, which I would think he's their eighth guy because they know that they have Montilus they can trust. They know they can trust Kieran Johnson, who now is on scholarship. and then William Barnes makes it 8. And I think that they could probably end up go 9 and 10. Plus, Barnes' flexibility to play multiple positions will help him. And if there's an injury, if Jordan Tucker goes down, don't be surprised if William Barnes is the guy that steps in and replaces him. And I'm not going to forecast an injury. I'm just saying you asked for scenarios, so I gave you scenario.
No, definitely not. I know what you mean on that. And yeah, I agree with you. I said in the beginning, one of the better stories of the spring has been William Barnes. And like I mentioned, as a caveat to that, we got to wait and see what happens during fall camp and during the season to see if he continues his progress and gets the opportunities to play. But no doubt about it, with what you talked about in his recruiting, being that prize guy to now, I mean, he's had quite the story. And I'm glad you mentioned, people making these timetables, fans making timetables for guys that they don't know and have no relationship with, don't coach, have never met before.
Yeah.
It's good to see a guy like him as a reminder. He also didn't transfer. I mean, a guy that I'm sure probably considered it in some ways. I don't know it for a fact, but when you look at his situation, probably passed through his mind a couple of times, chose to stuck it out, chose to work on developing, work on himself, work on his game. And now he's kind of reaping those rewards, and it's all coming to fruition for him. So yeah, one of the best stories, if not the best stories, I think, from fall on a personal level, and definitely should be a guy that, Carolina fans are rooting for to come this season. So yeah.
Or maybe what we're learning is maybe he didn't think about it. Look, he's in college. What are you doing in college? You find yourself. You develop.
Exactly. Yeah, can vouch for that.
You go from kid to man, young guy to man. And maybe what he's discovered about himself is he's not a guy that goes and seeks a greener a pasture somewhere. He's a fight through it guy. Maybe he's become a fight through it guy in college. And that's the kind of stuff that sticks with you in life when you go on and do far more important things, the stuff that most of your life comprises. Football is just a small part of it. So maybe that's one of the lessons that he's learned through football that he can apply to the rest of his life and will benefit from. I don't know. I haven't talked to him about it. I'm not going to suggest anything, but it looks to me, I've seen enough of these cases through my many, many years doing this stuff, that I would guess that's probably one of the things that he's learned and developed. And that's an attribute, and that's a skill, and that stuff sticks with you.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too, man. Great story, and like I mentioned, going to be fun to see how he continues to develop come the season and come fall camp before that. So good place to wrap this one up on William Barnes. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones, of course. Before we wrap this one up, if you haven't seen the ISO videos we've done, go watch those. Just click our channel below and you'll find the playlist on the homepage for that. And head on over to our website, tarhillillustrated.com. You can find a link to that in the description as well, and sign up for our premium access and premium message board for just $8.33 a month. You guys know the drill. Like, share, subscribe to our channel. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.